Hi, I think we're live now. Hello, Evan.
Yeah, I
How's it?
think we're live. Great stuff in yourself.
Yes, yes. Good to. I know we're chatting off camera, but I just like to bring that in here. That good to have you here. For people who don't know, Evan, I'll allow you to introduce yourself. It always sounds better when it's coming from you.
I'm Evan Marx. I'm the fund manager for Africa, the Right Project. It is a new initiative that was initiated by a very, very generous film investor that originates from Hong Kong and China, Mr. Brian Wu. He's currently stateside and um, has secured a very lucrative deal with Netflix and Amazon Prime to produce content from not directly African content, but from the African continent. Stories with universal appeal.
I see, and that is one of the things that I feel we need to be clear about, right? Because a lot of times, and I know you're going to give us a whole breakdown of this. A lot of times, I've found that while talking to fellow filmmakers, sorry, for people who don't know, my name is Adekunle Nuda Shadejubi. I'm a filmmaker, the film producer from Nigeria. So back to what I was saying. So a lot of people do not. There's this misconception or this lack of clarity about what it means when you say a film with international appeal. You know, and can you just say a little bit about that? What does it mean for somebody who makes Nigerian films or Ghanaian films? What does the international appeal mean when you say that's what you're looking for in scripts?
Well, I'm just going to use an example for now, and it would be a familiar movie to most of the viewers here. A couple of years ago, Denzel Washington and Ryan Reynolds played in a film called Safe House. It was a very simplistic story about a recruit or an asset that was brought to a safe house, and the safe house was compromised. Everything was shot here in Cape Town, but the story had a universal appeal. It could appeal to a wide audience. Most common mistakes that African screenwriters make, and I know that we want to be as authentic to our culture as possible, and sometimes that works, but sometimes it doesn't, is to make a story that appeals universally. If you think back, for example, of a cultural movie like Crazy Rich Asians that came out recently, that was hugely successful. Yes, it was about the Asian culture and about this rich family and about this poor girl getting into it. But the storyline could appeal universally to everybody. Everybody could understand that and enjoy that. Even the great Oscar winner of the year before last, Parasite, which was a foreign language film, had massive universal appeal because of the storylines and the tone that it set itself in and they tried to tackle. That was very, very important. I think what a lot of mistakes is made is that we think we make an African film and then they focus on things that they know about. Most of the scripts we get is about genocide. It's about warlords. It's about abuse against women, which is relevant. It's relevant in today's time, but it's about how you treat it and how you treat it to a general audience in order not to put them off. So these are important things when we speak about universal appeal.
I think that is actually very apt the way you put it because I've seen the same too. A lot of people when they say they're making films, and at some point we've all been in that space where people make stories that are about the negative side of things, and it's not treated. For I'll give you an example. The film you mentioned, there's this film called Beast of No Nation. That was
Yes.
yes, that was about warlords. It was about, but there was a certain way it was treated that didn't make it feel. Yeah,
And it was nominated for an Oscar, Best
yes,
Picture. All
yes,
right. They got the storyline right. So, yes, you
yeah,
can focus on that kind of a genre, but it's about how you treat it and it's how you present it to the world instead of
yeah.
keeping it very, very close.
Okay. So, what tips
Uh,
can you
uh,
give to writers as regards how?
no, sorry, no, piece of that. That one
No,
was Idris. That one was with Idris Elba, and I think he was nominated for a Golden Globe. Um,
yes.
I'm, there was another one, Beast of the Southern Wild. That one was
Ah,
nominated for an Oscar with
so
that little young girl.
yes. So my question would be to you: what tips could you give to writers who are watching this? How can they? Because a lot of times people have very specific experiences, very specific perspectives, stories they want to tell. It's clear in their minds. But how do you now make this appeal to people, especially if they haven't been in certain spaces? So if you have somebody who grew up in Oyo State, for example, in Nigeria, and has lived there all their lives, so they have very specific experiences. So how do they make that? What tips? What can they put in those scripts that will make it appeal to a global audience without losing them?
I think what's very important for a scriptwriter is to write about something that you're familiar with. Don't try and write something that you're not familiar with. Write something that's closed. Most scriptwriters either adapt from a book, that has already had resounding success, and the appeal for it has already been generated, or they go to an original script and they write something that they know about, that's something close to them. It's only the best script writers in the world, like your Aaron Sorkins, and I can name a whole bunch, that can literally start writing a brand new script from scratch and it would be a success. Most of other script writers, you've got to focus on something that's close to you. Maybe something through a personal experience, and it doesn't have to be a biopic or anything like that. You can more or less adapt the characters, use creative license as far as that is concerned, but make sure that there is proper character development. Each character must be fully fleshed out. The character must go through a hero's journey from the beginning of the first act all the way to the end of the third act.
I see. So I'm guessing these are common mistakes you've seen in scripts, because I can imagine you've read hundreds of scripts, and you know.
Yes. I think the most common mistake scriptwriters make is not respecting the three-act structure, knowing exactly when is the turning point in Act One, leading into Act Two, knowing that Act Two is your story, and how you conclude your
Yes.
your script in Act Three, but also that dramatic question that every story has. You can go pick any movie, and they have a dramatic question that needs to be answered. If that dramatic question is answered either in your first act or in your second act, you've lost your audience. Your
Yes.
story becomes predictable. That must be answered in the very last moment of your third act. I'm
Right.
going to use The Matrix, for example. The Matrix starts off very nicely, and I'm sure everybody has seen The Matrix. There is a very key moment. There's a very key moment in The Matrix when the inciting incident happens. That's when Trinity tells Neo, "You're looking for the Matrix." Right?
Yes.
Then she picks him up in the car and she takes him to go and meet Morpheus. All right, and this is where the first act turning point happens. He offers him the blue pill and the red pill. He's got to make a choice now. And this is where his entire character changes and starts going on a journey. His
Yes.
character cannot be the same at the end of the film than it was at the beginning of the film.
There's Then you don't have a story. That is it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he takes the red pill and he goes on this entire journey. So your conclusion is, and the dramatic question in The Matrix is he the one?
Yes.
Because throughout all the obstacles that he faces and the challenges that he loses, he falls into the ground. You don't really know, and the oracle tells him he's the one. You don't know if he's the one. Then you find out in Act 3, when he faces off against that agent, that he is the one. And that becomes the conclusion. And it sets it, you can either set it up in that for a sequel, etc. But that is pretty important.
Oh, I see. Yeah, go on, please.
Yeah. Also, another crucial mistake that screenwriters make is not grabbing the reader in that first 10 pages.
Yes.
Yes. got to incorporate. I mean, how many times have you watched a movie and if that movie doesn't grab you in the first 15 minutes, you disconnect from it?
You're done. Yes.
Right.
Especially now.
You watch a Hollywood film and immediately they start off with that dramatic score, that kind of pull you in, and immediately there is a strong visual opening, action sequence or something, or even a dramatic film, something dramatic happens, followed by an emotional moment, that kind of like connects you with the character, and now you're invested. Now you want to find out more. Strong visual and strong emotional hook in that first 10 pages.
Interesting. So one of the things that I think it would be nice to speak about, right, is because I'm coming from a space where I know there are a lot of people who want to write, and a lot of people who already are writing, and every time they apply for funds and stuff, they get rejected. They don't know why. Do you understand? So they're like, it gets to a point they're like, oh, they just don't like my script. No, Evan stays up at night looking for your script. Do you understand? It's not like he doesn't like you. It's that your story doesn't align with what, good storytelling as far as he's concerned is. So let's give some specific tips, if you will, right? We have, how about the length of the story? Because I've seen people come and say, how long should a story be for a feature film? And I know that you have specifications for the right project, I know, but it would be nice to explain why you're saying minimum of 70, 75 pages and a maximum of 135 pages. Why is that?
Well, I think even 135 pages is too long. Try and keep your script as tight as possible. A lot of people sometimes start off a script good. They get that first and that second act right, but then they just carry on with that third act and they don't know how to close their script off. Right? Keep your script tight. Whatever doesn't contribute to the story, drop it. I know that we all love what we write and we all get very attached to what we write, but most of that stuff will be lost on the editing floor anyway when a proper editor comes on board. I've seen a director take a script most recently. The script was 125 pages. He did his director's treatment on it, and the script ended up being 81 pages. He cut out everything that was completely unnecessary and did not contribute to the story. If there is a scene that you can take out of your script and it does not affect your storyline, it doesn't fit in your script. It is just extra window dressing that you want to put in to make it beautiful. You're not impressing anybody. You've got to serve the story. Second thing is dialogue. Everybody thinks they can write dialogue, and dialogue is one of the most difficult things to write. I've just got a line here quickly. Movie dialogue is completely different than real life conversations. It's more tighter, it's more sharper, it's more focused and more entertaining. Then some people use dramatic speeches and snappy banter and dialogue with jokes. You'll find them in a lot of films. And all of this might be great writing, but if the dialogue doesn't always also serve the purpose, none of this matters. It is extremely important that the dialogue serves the purpose. Make exactly sure what you're trying to say with dialogue. Also run a lot of people think they can write dialogue, but they're not running it past anybody. I was watching an interview between Matt Damon and Ben Affleck most recently. It's a very, very old interview from the 90s when they wrote the script Good Will Hunting, for which they won the Oscar. And they constantly ran those dialogue lines past each other to see how they fit. One person cannot construct it. You'll also find that once you've written a script and you go into a reading room with a table read, that most of that script changes according to what the actors, how they interpret that, So don't get too attached to that dialogue. But it's important to run these dialogue lines past someone else. A late night host asked Matt Damon quite recently, why do they swear so much in the film? He says they didn't realize that that's just how the people in Boston is. They just swear a lot. And as they were running the lines, they were just writing everything down. So it was coming out as authentic as possible. And that's that authenticity that got them an Oscar.
So some people have, I know I've been in spaces where this debate about dialogue has come up. And one of the things that people say is, and this is, I'd like for you to speak about it. They call what you said about Boston, right? A lot of people swear in Boston. But how about different parts of the world where people speak differently? Do you
Yes.
understand? And then there's some places I've been that people don't. Well, so I live in Lagos, Nigeria. Things are a little fast. Do you understand? But there are even places in Nigeria that I've been to where people speak slower. And for somebody like me, I'm talking to you and you're taking about 10 seconds to reply. What's going on? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you're writing a story based on cultures like that, and that is how they speak, they think we speak too fast. You know what I mean? How do you treat that to make those kinds of stories retain their authenticity and still appeal to a global audience who might not understand that kind of culture?
I don't think that is really the scriptwriter's challenge. I think that comes more down to the director about how he treats it and how he puts it to screen, because you need to be true to your story. That authenticity has to come through. The authenticity of the Boston speaking like that. You cannot put. And I'm going to use an example for a picture that has horribly failed. It was. I'm just trying to think of the movie now. Scarlett Johansson played in a. It was a Japanese anime film. I can't think of it on the top of my head, but she played a Japanese character. An American actress played what is supposed to be a Japanese character, and the film flopped completely because people could not associate that.
Is it Atomic Blonde?
No, it's not Atomic Blonde. I'm going to have to Google that one for you. It's like a super sci-fi kind of a one. Let's use another example. Most recently, Mulan came out on Disney Plus, and the lead character was played by an Asian actress. Imagine they had put an American actress in that lead role. It won't do the script justice. Yes,
Yeah,
everybody always want to push the bankable stars to get that authenticity, but I see sometimes on Netflix the most appealing stories is not driven by bankable stars, but by simple, authentic stories and actors that you haven't even known about, heard about, and which means you can tell a story without a Tom Cruise. You can tell a story without a Scarlett Johansson or a Robert Downey Jr. or a Denzel Washington. It's all great to have them in there, but if your script is good enough, your story is good enough, and you can get the right character to portray them and bring that authenticity over, and the right director to execute it. Remember, it's not just the script.
yes,
It's about getting all those elements right.
yes.
Then you're in a really, really good place. But it all starts with the script. You've got to get that story right. And a lot of people is impatient. They push too hard, or they rush. And if you look at really true Hollywood stories, some scripts take 7 years in the making, 8 years in the making, some longer. I mean, James Cameron has been keeping everybody in limbo on these Avatar sequels, which
Yes.
now they've wrapped on post-production, but it's been 9, 10 years that he's been writing these scripts.
Yes.
And based on his reputation, these are probably going to be absolutely spectacular because of the meticulous care that goes in. I know that everybody cannot afford to spend 9, 10 years on writing. These guys have made millions of dollars already, and they can afford to sit back for 10 years and write. So most of us have got a time frame of 2, 3 months to write a script because we've got to work and we've got to earn money, you know? So we've got to adapt towards our situations and find the stories that can be converted quickly to screen.
I think that the film we were talking about then was the Scarlett Johansson film. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Ghost in a Shell, I think.
Yes,
So,
Ghost in the Shell. That's correct.
yeah. I was mixing it up with Atomic
Yep.
Blonde for some reason. Yeah,
Yep.
but yes, that's the one.
Ghost in the Shell. That's correct.
Interesting. So, if we had, as regards time now, right? What would you advise is somebody comes to you with a script or they want to submit a script to you? What do you think? I mean, it's on a case by case basis. Things are different depending on what you have, but on the average, from you said you guys have two stories that could already work, so you've done a couple of things that have worked. How long would you say the writer or the producer should keep in mind? Because you said something about patience, and I think it's because people have clocks in their heads. Like, if I send this thing, I should get a response in so 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 so. But hey, it might take how long?
What do you mean? How long?
How long?
Don't
For, so somebody sends a script to you, right?
yes.
The screenwriter says, "I have this,"
Yeah.
and in their minds, I think most screenwriters understand that there are some adjustments and revisions that go into place, right, when you're making a script. But it gets to a point, like you said, where they get impatient.
That's true.
You
Yeah.
understand? Yes. So, and they get impatient because they think it's taking too long.
I really don't know what sometimes goes into the mindset of screenwriters. It could be, um, but it is a process. Even if you sit on a script and you got to ask yourself, how many drafts have you done? Sometimes you just have a good story that just comes together. I'm going to go back way to 1976. Sylvester Stallone, he wrote that Rocky script over a weekend in 4 days.
Yes. Yes.
So sometimes you just get it right. It just comes to you, but it's something that you can completely relate to and understand, especially if you understand the subject matter. And it's something that you can write out of personal experience. Sometimes it's just going to take longer, and you're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to do your research. You're going to have to run it past people. I know that this is a very precarious situation, especially in Africa, and I hear it from a lot of screenwriters. Oh, but what if they steal my story? And how do I protect my story and all that? Then you, but at some point, you got to run this past someone. Get somebody to read it. You got to get that constructive feedback on your scripts. You cannot do it all by yourself. Some of the best script writers use script doctors just to give them advice and help them, and script editors to fix that. Most of the best novelists in the world write their books, but they give it to a very talented a novel editor to edit that book to an immaculate condition, to put it on the shelf. It's a process, and it's not something that you can do by yourself.
I see. So I think that is actually something that a lot of people needed to hear, because I know for a fact that there have been movies that people develop in. I mean, the script is written in a month, and they literally just say, "We have a script we want to shoot," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I know you want to shoot, but can we discuss the script?" You understand? And
Yes.
it's good that you're saying, I mean, it's really, really good that you're saying this, because it's the conversation we keep having. As a matter of fact, to be honest, there's a project I'm on now that yesterday I just had them move the timeline because the script just wasn't. It's not at the point where it's ready to be shot, you know. But they wanted to shoot next month. So
It's not that the story is not good, but the script needs
yes,
work. Like everything else in life needs work, and you need to work at that to make it the best. You must say to yourself, is this good enough for domestic television, or can I get this onto Netflix? Can I get this onto Amazon? Can I get this onto Catchplay? Can I get this on? Can I? If my script's good enough, can I sell it to Warner Brothers? Uh, um, what are you going to be satisfied with? Um, but it's about, I believe in collaboration, I believe in networking, and I believe that scriptwriters is going to reach out to as many close friends and people that you can trust and run your ideas past, collaborative ideas past. Even sit with a director, even sit with an editor, see how these scenes are going to come together. An editor is also a storyteller. An editor tells a story completely different from the way you've written the script and how they put it together, and they might come with some fresh ideas as well that can enhance your script.
yeah. So this is an important part of the conversation, right? Where you're saying that people need to listen to other people, they need to share and get feedback. But the question is, most people who write stories, I mean, that I've met, they actually get feedback. The feedback is
Yes.
just from the wrong people.
Yes.
So how do you find the right people to get feedback from? How do you even know them? I mean, how do you identify? There are 10 people in the room. Who's the best person to talk to?
I suppose it comes down to networking. It comes down to building relationships and finding that person that appeals to your story. You might also, and I've seen this a lot with a script where a script is sent to a script editor, and the writer doesn't like the feedback, and he sends it to another script editor, and he gets the feedback that he wants. But now
Yeah.
you've got two conflicting that. So what kind of decision that you make? I always say that a writer's got to do what's best for their story. You are sometimes not going to get the feedback that you want, or you're going to get the feedback that you want, and everybody thinks that they can write your scene better than you can. But you've got to do what's best for your scene. I always also say that, sometimes you're going to lose content, but sometimes you also have to fight for your content. You've got to fight for that scene. All right, you're going to justify, why do I need this scene in this movie, and what purpose does it serve? When somebody tells you, oh, this doesn't work, you just got to stand up and motivate this.
So I feel that is why a lot of times we have this confusion going on, because I have spoken to a lot of writers. I write myself, and it gets to a point where you are getting feedback from Evan, and he says, this is not good. Then you get feedback from somebody you equally respect, and it says, oh, this is good. You don't know because you've lost objectivity. So the question
Exactly.
is, yes, so it's easier when the writer still has objectivity and says, oh, yeah. I know this will work. But sometimes when the writer has lost the objectivity, they know what the story should be about, but they're just not sure. Are there certain tentpoles or things they can look out for? I know one of them is, if it does not move the story forward, lose it.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
What other tips can you give?
Most important thing is that first 10 pages. We have an executive committee. Your script goes to our executive committee. It's 6 people. They all read your script. And if they don't get past those first 10 pages, you're in trouble. Your script goes into a pile and it gets rejected. You've got to grab them in that first 10 pages. Strong visual hook, strong emotional hook. Make sure there's an inciting incident within the first 15 pages. Make sure your first act turning point is at more or less page 30 or page 35 that leads into act 2. If you haven't achieved that, you're in trouble. You're in serious trouble, and your script will be rejected. They won't even make it through to read all the beautiful scenes that you've written in act 3 or act 2. They won't get there. Because they've got so many scripts to read, they drop it off to 10 pages. Those first 10 pages are the most crucial. And if you grab them on those first 10 pages, there's always work and there's always improvement. They can always come back and, okay, fine, you started off strong, but here in act 2, you kind of lost the drift there and your momentum, and maybe try this and that. Now you've got them talking, now you've got them engaged, now you can start fixing it, but you're in the door. If you don't get past that first 10 pages, you're out. You're rejected. And you don't really know why. Because they didn't even read the full script. They don't even know what the rest of the story is about. They just got to page 10 and said, oh, this is crap. This is not working.
I see. Okay, so one other question that I get a lot, and in preparing for this, I asked a lot of people what they wanted to know. And one of the things they asked is, it's a simple question, but there's a lot of confusion about it. What kind of genres are you interested in? Because, yeah, are there specifics? I mean, yes, I know the global community consume all kinds of genres. That's obvious.
Yes.
But are there genres that are more, that could easily, get you through the door? You know what I mean? What are the top genres, if there's anything like that, or is it all open? Write whatever you want. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. At the moment, it's open to all genres. We felt that the genres that seems to be picked, and one of the pictures that was just picked out of the first cycle was a biopic, a real true story about. I can't reveal more information about the storyline, but it takes place in Ghana, and but it's an American that has to come back to Ghana to find out that he's an actual prince. But he's been living in exile in America. So those kind of stories, biopics, true stories that can actually appeal to you, good dramas, but not slow burn dramas. Entertaining dramas, like a dramedy, a dramatic comedy, or a dramatic thriller. Try and stay away from war. Try and stay away from genocide. Try and stay away from all the atrocities that's happening in the world. Try away and stay away from coronavirus. I know everybody's trying to write a coronavirus story. It's depressing and people don't want to see that. Uplifting content. See what's going on. Watch television. I watch Netflix. See what's coming out. Powerful things is coming out. Different kind of content's coming out. But you got to learn from your peers around you what is being made and what is trending right now and what is working right now. If you've got the right story, it will work. But try and stay away from all these depressing topics. All this, and I'm sorry to bring this up, but this is important because we do get a lot of this. All this, and this is, I know this is happening, and my sincere apologies if I offend anybody, but we get so many scripts of abuse, rape, murder, senseless murder, and all that, where it doesn't serve the narrative, where they're just trying to make a statement because it's happening to them. But the rest of the world, it's fine if you do that, but it's about how you treat it so that the rest of the world can actually understand and sympathize with this matter.
I think that is actually a very interesting thing to say because, yeah, you're right. We get all of those stories a lot. And just to be clear, for people who are listening, like Evan said, it's not about not telling those stories, right? It's about understanding that the story is a commodity that's going to be sold to an audience, and the audience has a choice on what they buy.
Yes.
You understand? And people kind of like buying stuff that makes them feel better. That, at least gives them some. They want to feel something they want. Something positive for the most part.
Yes.
Did I say that right, Evan?
That's absolutely correct. They got to focus on what is the true genre of their film. If you're trying to make a movie for everybody, it will most likely appeal to no one. Every movie has got a specific audience, and everybody's got different tastes. Some people like karate films. Some people like action movies. Some people are more versatile and watch all different kind of genres. But if you're trying to make your movie that appeals to everybody, you're probably going to struggle. It's got to serve a purpose, the genre, and appeal to a specific audience.
Yeah, so somebody from the audience is asking a question, and the question is for you, Evan. And the person says, when you say the crucial first 10 pages, the person is like, does it apply to both short films and for feature films?
No, just features, Short films are much shorter, and short films doesn't necessarily follow that 3-act structure. Also very important, short films is more like a resume, but very important when it comes to short films to that. And we do get a lot of applications for short films. We are looking for short films that can be adapted into a feature. Think of a movie called Whiplash. It was a great short and it became a full feature. Even Neil Blomkamp that made District 9 a few years ago had a short called, it was a couple of minutes long, called Alive in Joburg, that eventually became his resume and to get the funding for a full feature. You're looking for that kind of shorts. See if there is a bigger narrative, but don't try and overcomplicate things too much in a short film. The nice thing with a short film is that it can be anything. You can have free range. You can literally have one actor in a coffin and let that go on for 12 minutes with banter and that. If it serves its purpose. Also, with short films, try not to create too many characters. It just complicates your short film. Try and minimize your characters as little as possible so that you have much more of a story to tell. Also, try and tell things more visually instead of using dialogue, because if you're doing a short and you're not experienced in dialogue yet, you're going to struggle. So try and tell things as visually as possible. I have a great a director's friend that said to me, his son is deaf, and he was on a plane most recently, well, just before the pandemic hit, and they were flying to London, and the sound was off on the movie that he was watching, and his little boy was just laughing all the time. And he says, that's a good movie. That's because the sound was off. His son is deaf. He's following the story. He can enjoy the story, understand the story, and laugh at the story. If you can switch the sound off on your movie and still understand the narrative, then you've got a good story. The rest is just there to enhance your picture. The music, all the special effects and everything. You must be able to switch off that sound and still understand what the movie is about.
One of the most popular questions that I've heard and people have asked me to ask you is, if you're doing a movie for, do you need to have, kind of like, have you seen The Last King of Scotland, for example?
Yes.
Yes. Do you need to have somebody not from that society come into that society for it to have global appeal? Do you understand?
Sorry,
Like,
just
so for example, this story was an
a
African
period
story.
piece.
Yes, but then you had the doctor who was an American. I think American. I don't know.
Yes.
I think he's American. Do you need to have that foreign person in your story for the story to appeal globally to a wider audience, or can you make it
No.
all good? Because even in the example you gave, you mentioned that there was somebody who was exiled in America, and he came.
Yeah.
Same thing with even
Yeah.
Black Panther. You had the
Look, it's
American.
something.
Yeah.
I don't think they should to worry too much about the cast. Everybody always thinks, and they write something with a character in mind, and you never know what you're going to get for your story. Don't write with a cast in mind. Don't think, oh, Tom Cruise can play this, Idris Elba can do this, oh, this is for Denzel Washington, all that, because then you're struggling. Then you're not being true to your characters. The right character and the right actor will come along for that part if proper auditions is done and the proper processes are followed. And if the studio or whoever picks up the script feels that they want to open it up to bankable stars and something a bit more A-list and more upper class, then that'll be the case. If that's not the case, then you go look for B-rated actors. It's not necessarily bad actors. They're just not those superstars like a Tom Cruise and a Denzel Washington, but they can still give that great performance to that. Don't worry too much about the cast at this point. That becomes the producer's headache, and that becomes the director's headache.
Got you. So something I'm trying to get. Okay, there's another question here. The person is saying, how do you go about writing a film in a local, not widely spoken language, but submitting to funders who don't speak the language? I think it's obviously translated.
Subtitles.
Yes. Yeah, I think that.
Subtitle it.
Yeah, I think that.
Subtitle it. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we do not accept any vernacular languages. We do this only for short films, because it's short films is more like your resume where you can express yourself, and we do accept vernacular language but we require subtitles in order to understand your text. Also, maybe best if you write your action scenes in English and just your dialogue in vernacular, but with a subtitle. That also makes it a lot easier instead of trying to do the entire script in vernacular. But unfortunately, at this point in time, for feature films, English only. We don't mind if it's English mixed with, and you see this now common, Russians don't just speak English in movies anymore. They actually speak Russian, with subtitles. And I like that what filmmakers are doing now. Why must everything be in English, So if you're in an English environment, or you're in France and this person cannot speak English, then you speak French. Just provide the subtitles. These are authentic. It appeals to the storyline. It doesn't help you put an American actor in a Russian role. He speaks English with an American accent, but he's a Russian. It doesn't work.
I see. So there's another question about talking about uplifting matters. The recent Oscar-winning short film, Two Distant Strangers, is actually a really depressing movie, but it sells because
Yes.
racism is a pressing issue on ground. What do you have to say about that? That's a question for you.
I have some conflicting thoughts about that. I don't really know what the Academy did this year with their choices. It was quite a difficult year. I actually don't have any comments on that. Yeah, it's quite a depressing film.
Okay, so I can say some things about that.
Yes,
And
please.
yes, I agree. But also, this is something that a lot of people do not like hearing, especially in the film industry. But
Yeah.
sometimes the choices are not completely artistic. There's also the politics of things. Do you understand?
Yes.
So, you know, yeah. And that's all I have to say about that. So sometimes it's
No,
not just
absolutely.
about the merit of the film, they have to consider what's happening in the moment, how to stay relevant. That might also, but I think it's a good film. I enjoyed watching it. I really did. But this is what we should keep in mind. If you're making a film for the Oscars, that's a different conversation. But if you're getting people to fund your film and they want to make money from the film, it's really about what they think will
Yeah.
sell. And
Yeah.
that's
I hear you on that, but I always say that when you write your script, don't try and write your script to win awards. Everybody wants to win an award and everybody wants to be recognized. You've got to be true to your story. What happens will happen, and what's in your destiny will be. But don't try and write your script to think, oh, this is an award-winning script. I get so many guys that says, my script's going to win an award. This is an Oscar-winning script. Or that, oh, what did you reject it? I was going to win an Oscar for this. This is the complete wrong mindset. Uh, you're not serving the purpose, you're serving yourself.
So we have just about 5 minutes remaining now. I'd like for us to just round up a little by going over. It's a simple question. The answer might require you going over some of the things you said before, but I think it's important as a roundup. What can screenwriters do to make your job at selecting good scripts easier? What I know there are scripts you read and you're like, oh my God, no, not this one again. But what are those things for people who are just joining in? What can screenwriters do to make your job easier? To make it easier for you to read a script and say, oh, now I have 20 good ones. Now I'm confused. I'm spoiled for choice.
Um, Inspire, love, courage. Uh, Try and bring change, but don't try and change the world. Um, just try and be as authentic as possible. Um, think of what's the things that you don't want to hear about. It might be important to you, but what you don't want to hear about, I'm pretty sure that there are a million other people they don't want to hear about that either. Um, yeah, it is such a wide topic that we can actually discuss this in a completely different segment. Um, and it needs a lot of attention as to what must I write about, all that. And I always say to people, write something that's close to you, something that you understand, uh, something that's going to touch the heart, that's going to draw the audience in. Make sure that they connect with the characters, that they find that character appealing. They want to follow that character's journey. The hero's journey in every film, doesn't matter if it's a sci-fi film or a drama film, is the most important part. Don't try and use too many characters. And a story doesn't always need an antagonist. It just can be driven sometimes by a protagonist. If you look at Nomadland that won the Best Picture, it's such a simplistic story that was told so beautifully, shot so beautifully, and they just try not. I always say less is more. Don't try and complicate things. Don't try and think, oh, I've got to go bigger and better in order to appeal more, serve the story.
I see. I think a lot of people have learned a lot from this. Some of the things that you've said, I know that coming from, I mean, you're an expert at this. This is what you do. There are certain things you probably take for granted now, like, oh yeah, people know this, but you'll be shocked at how people are taking notes right now. Like there are things
Yeah,
they are hearing for the first time. They should have done a
yeah.
bit more research, read a couple of books on screenwriting, but you know, this is also one of the
We
abilities that people get to learn. Yeah, you go on, please.
we have a 12-day script writing crash course that starts on all our social media platforms this coming Monday. That will highlight some of the things that I've just brought up. That will take you through the entire process, through Act One, through Act Two, through Act Three. What you need to do, a bit more in depth. All right, but also what happens when your script is done, putting that business proposal together. Do I go for copyright registration or do I go to my Writers Guild? What's going to serve me best? How do I protect my material? And then when I'm done with it, what do I do with it now? All right. So 12 days, if you're prepared to sit in for 12 days, these are not long courses. They're short crash courses, but they highlight the most important things that will give you a push start. Do check it out.
Yeah, can you just let us know what those pages are now for people who are watching so that they know
They can
exactly?
they can follow it on our Facebook page. Just go to our website, therightproject.africa. Right at the footer of the page is all our social media links for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And those the courses will be available on all four of those platforms. Coming Monday at 10 o'clock.
Awesome. So we're pretty much out of time now. I wish we could continue, but we can't. However, I think, are there any last words I don't like saying last words, but are there any final thoughts you would like to share?
I think there is an abundance of talent coming out of Africa at the moment, not just from a script writing point of view, but from a producing point of view as well. More and more content is making it to Netflix. We are trying to make our voice heard. We are growing rapidly. Don't lose faith. Persistence, perseverance, success. Keep writing.
Thank you very much, Evan. I think you just nailed it. It's something we all we can see happening. A lot of people are more people are paying attention to this space now. Like you said, a lot of films are making it to global platforms. I think it's up to us to find ways to elevate the material now, and I think this is one of the ways to do it. The screenwriting course is definitely important, because it all starts with a story.
It does start with a story.
Yeah, without a story, it doesn't matter what you put in it. We don't have anything.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Good. Is there any other thing you want to share about the Right Project? Yes, a lot of people already know about it, but I'm sure there'll be somebody who'll be hearing about it for the first time.
Uh, Most of the information is available on the website. People can go check out right at the foot of the page our terms and conditions. Frequently asked questions. If there is any questions that you feel that we haven't answered yet, you're more than welcome to send an email. All the information is available on the website, and we've got a team that will come back to you and answer that as best as possible and see how we can assist you, whatever challenge you might have.
A lot of people are going to be reaching out to you to have these conversations, and I'm happy you made time to have this conversation with us today. I think it was very important, maybe even more important than you think, because a lot of people needed to hear the things you've said. I'm sure. I mean, I'm going to put it on my social media pages too to join the course, the 12-day course. I think it's the way forward. And we need to keep this interaction going. Where we have experts talking to everybody. You understand what I'm saying? The more we hear from people like you, the better for everybody, I think.
Oh, did I mention that script writing course is for free? There is no cost involved. Absolutely for free. Free advice for you to use as best as you can at the convenience at your home.
Awesome. Good. I'm sure that is a good part of the story. It is for free, guys. All right, cool. We're out of time now. Thank you very much, Evan.
Great stuff. I'm honored. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye.